Hi everybody, it's Colin McCune from the New Fly Fisher. In this video, I want to talk about a new tool to add to your arsenal or something to consider. And it's something you already have, but it's something new probably to you. So we all have indicators. I got a whole pile of different indicators here, and they all have a function. Some are better than others. And it seems like every few years there's a new indicator that's coming out that is the big rave. Well, the indicator I want to talk about, I've known about for almost 20 years. Brian Chan and Phil Rowley introduced me to it, and it's called the Quick Release Indicator. And I think one of the reasons why a lot of people don't know about them is that they're really hard to find. But we're going to talk about that and where you can get them in this video. So this indicator, and it comes in different sizes and colors, etc. But what's unique about it, it's got a hole through the foam and it's got a peg, but what's unique is that the peg has got a hole in it. And the reason why that is set up like that, because people in stillwater fishing who are using really long leaders, often 10, 12, 15 feet or more longer, who needed to suspend flies down in a lake to get at trout or other species, realized they needed something that when they hooked a fish, it would release and the indicator would go down to the fish. And that is what I have here, an example of that. So right here I've got a fly that would be suspending below the indicator, and this is the magic of this indicator. That's right. You set the hook, fish starts to fight, indicator slips all the way right down to the fly, which means down to the fish. And why that's important, your Great Lakes steelheading. I'm in Ohio and I hook a fish and it's a big fish. Well, I might have had 12, 13 feet of line out with flies to get to where those fish are. And all of a sudden I've got that length to fight and I got to walk up the shore so that my friend can net it. Well, with these quick release indicators, that gets rid of the problem. And what's really fantastic about them, besides the fact they come in different shapes, different colors, is that they're so easy to use. Simply go like that, put the line in, and I'm ready to go. Make the next cast. And you can vary the tightness on the line so that if you give me little flicks as your indicator's going down the river, it won't pop out. But when you do get a fish, there you go, it slips. So these quick release indicators are different than, say, when I was Great Lakes steelheading recently, and I was using these, which I think a lot of people are familiar with, the tapered ones, which are great, and they use a peg. So they put your line through, they peg it, they break it off, but guess what? You gotta keep pulling it out to adjust the depth all the time. And if you're like me, if you wanna be successful, doesn't matter if it's trout or it's bass or whatever, you're constantly adjusting your indicator, just like your weight, to get your fly to where the fish are. And that's where these quick release indicators are so fantastic. The other thing I really like about them, besides the way they function, is their price point. As you know, and I'm not going to name names of indicators, some of them have become very expensive. They work well, but they're very expensive. I just went and bought, I took one out here to use, but I just went over to Cabela's here in Canada and bought a 4-pack of these large ones, which I like to use for steelhead fishing, and they were $7 Canadian, so that's just over $5 for an American, $5.50 for 4 of them. So they're just over $1 a piece. So they're very reasonable cost, and they're super effective. Again, let me reinforce why they're so great. You just put them in like that with your line, start casting with it, you get a fish. You can use ones like this with a taper for river fishing, for bigger fish, bigger flies. If you're in a more delicate situation, they have these type that are of different sizes, the circular ones or round ball ones. They all work and they all have their place. I have a collection of them. I'm actually down, because you know what happens, I'm using them when I was down in Ohio recently, steelhead fishing, and I start talking to anglers and they see what I'm using and they're like, what is that? I end up giving them away. because I had this thing like over half full. So I bought a whole bunch from Phil, and most of them are gone, but different colors, different shapes. And I know some of you are going to say, well, hang on, the waters I fish get a lot of pressure, and I need white ones, because you're right. Like, that's why they make white indicators, because they look like a bubble, and in places that get pressure, if something bright goes over top of those fish, it's going to put them down. But there's a trick, and it's real simple. You just get out a Sharpie and you blacken the bottom. Then it just looks like an acorn or something, but it doesn't look like an indicator. And it does the trick. And this one, as you can see, it's really beat up. It's a combination of stuff in my fly box, but they last a long time, even though they're foam. The colors you have, you got a problem with, pressured fish, just take the Sharpie, blacken the bottom, works perfect. So if you want to get more information about these indicators or purchase some of them, the best thing to do is go to the link I'm listing here, or in the description box, I've got a link to where you can buy them. They're really hard to find. I don't know why they're not more popular, but like I said, they've been around for well over 20 years. And I learned about them back in the early 2000s. And as soon as I tried using them, I was like, wow, I wonder if these would work on my local river. And I took them over here for smallmouth bass. And when you're fishing to fish that are really tight against some place and you can't put a fly there without snagging, so you need to suspend it, they were awesome. I caught bass after bass after bass because I could suspend a crayfish or a leech pattern just 6 inches off the bottom, or even more, depending upon the riffle, and catch fish. It was fantastic. This works for steelhead, it works for trout, it works on rivers, it works on lakes, it works everywhere. These things are awesome. I highly recommend them. And I think once you try them, you're going to be like me. They're probably the only thing you're ever going to use. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please, if you've got comments to make or you've got recommendations on things we should review, let us know in the comments below. Thanks again for watching.